Henry, we're going to go through a knee protocol. All right. Every protocol I do really starts in the same position, no matter what we're targeting, because we want to be, if we had a hard night or if we had a more hard morning, if there's any stress or built up tension in the body, we want to mitigate that. We're going to start with our big toes together and our heels apart, all right? We don't want to focus on a ton of torque to the inside yet because we're dealing with a knee. So I just want to find that neutral position. And I'm going to look at the person, and I'm going to see if there's any imbalances, and I'm going to try to say, hey, go ahead and lay back. So right here, it's pretty perfect, but I'm going to bring the knees up so there's a little bit of bend, all right? And I'm going to cue him to push his heels into the mat. What that does, push your heels into the mat, it should make the hamstrings kind of bulge a little bit and pop. We're going to hold for a count of 9 seconds. Every 3 seconds, I want you to take a breath in. So we're mobilization of the rib cage with an isometric hold in the back of the leg. From that point, we're not going to worry about the overhead work since we're dealing with the knee. We're just going to get right into the lower body. We're going to take the right heel and put it on the left ankle. This right, on the left ankle. I messed you up there. I understand why you did that. And then you're going to try to keep that same pressure in the back of the heel. And if anything, start to slide it back towards the butt just a half an inch. You should really feel that like you could. That shouldn't have any really slack in it. You know what I mean by slack? Slack would be looseness. We want long tension, we want pressure in the heel. It'll be the only time I ever actually cue you to put pressure in the heel because we're in a supine position and it's not really relating to running, right? And then we're gonna slowly bring this up. Gabby, I saw this earlier. You see that little bump right there? We're watching for little micro engagements of the tissue. And if we see something consistent right there, then I might say, hey, we're just gonna keep grooving through it. And then over time, I want you to bring it to right here, because that's where I noticed I saw the first bump. And then I'm gonna point the toes towards the nose. JP, yeah guys, I'm filming. So outside or behind works. Toes towards the nose, toes down. Toes towards the nose, toes down. So, you need a break? Okay, sweet. We're still holding that one just solid, so that keeps the hips and the pelvis honest. And then on this side, we're keeping everything honest. Can I have that pink ball? Nice, feel those little pops and crackles? So we want to work into that zone, but I'm going to add a little pressure, so I want you to bring your left hand, push the ball into the knee, and push the knee into the ball. The other way to do this would be a foam block. If you don't like the inconsistencies of that resistance, we can use a foam block to really engage. They both provide the same outcome, which is this hip should now feel like it's in the slot, right? And once we get that hip in the slot, now any foot motion we do is going to have an effect on the knee for sure. Now, if we don't have this balloon or this ball or this foam block here and we're doing footwork, then there's slack in the system. So it's just like, it would be a good warm up. But when you want to get tension to pull in and out, do you feel any little pops or crackles? It like resets the joint in its groove. Okay, so if you reach and feel your elbow, you're going to notice there's a groove. And if I were to torque on this one way or this way, there's an end point where it no longer wants to go. If I were to go past that point and bend it, I'm causing a strain. A lot of times what happens with us humans on a hard floor is this foot is like the wrist gets torqued a little bit, and then we're adding knee flexion and extension with an impact. So you're training the brain in this position to refurbish some of those tissues or realign itself, which is what I would call open chain work, right? This foot is not connected to the floor. So the first thing I want to warm up with a knee is open chain, because I don't want to risk any injury. If we start with jumps and hops and higher level agility work, those impacts become repetitive stressors for the joint, and this is just for regeneration of the tissues, for circulation, for control. If you want to extend the leg, yeah. So you find those spots where you're like, okay, once you work to fatigue, you take a short break. The goal at this stage is not to build strength, but to engage and activate those tissues. So where you move that ball depending on where the hip is, if you start to open the hip up a little more, push that ball in, and then you're gonna get a different set that's deeper up into the groin. If you're all the way across like I've traditionally have taught it, it's a tighter hold, it's more of the outside. So as you open that hip, learn to control that ball, and then if you can coordinate the hip to open and close and keep the same amount of pressure between the hand and the ball, that is what's gonna correlate to a good functioning hip. A lot of knee injuries are caused by an imbalance or a misfire between the hip and the ankle. The foot goes one way, the hip goes the other. The hip goes one way, the foot goes the other. Swaying outside or swaying inside can create torque at this simple little hip joint here. Does that make sense? Meniscus, we want movement, nice and easy. We want that fluid to get pumped in and out. I may even take a medicine ball and put it for your resting patterns. When you're at rest in this position, I might, when you handle a joint, hand under the leg, above the knee, never below. If you're moving a leg, because if I get here, what's going to happen? If I get here, I'm going to pick it up. It's safer. So I'm protecting that joint, right? So review there, right? Always above the joint, towards the middle. When I say above, towards the middle, because if it's the shoulder, and I want to lift the shoulder, I wouldn't pick you up from the wrist. I would support the wrist, but I would pick you up from the elbow. And then I can create a little traction, right? With the knee, same thing. I'm going to pick it up here, and then I'm going to have the ankle, and I might pick this knee up and pull out. Where am I pulling from in your opinion? This hand, right? Not this hand. Because if I pull this, I'm just stretching out what's already stretched out. The goal here is not to increase range of motion, it is to increase your range of control. So I might pull it out with this side. I'm just making sure that this is in line, because if I don't have here, then I have torque. So I'm supporting from the Achilles on that soft tissue. I can move very easily by pulling my hand under and taking the thumb across, and I can close the hip or I can open the hip. For you, I want to open the hip, right? Close it on the way down. So I'm going in a circular motion, but I'm constantly pulling up, right, to pull that hip out of the socket. Then I'm going to say, hey, can you hold this right here? This is called a place and hold. You will place the joint in that position, you will hold it there, and you will say, hold it here. The first thing I'm going to let go is back here. If that foot drops, ooh, what do we know? We know that this isn't holding this line. So maybe I pull it a little taller and say, hey, put your hand right here and push your knee into your hand. Good. Now I've got quad, and then this is going to be solid. That's going to hold you. Now, holding that quad, I want you to slowly extend. Good. And set it back down. Now push into that ball. Compress this medicine ball rather than a rubber ball, because the harder you push into something rubber, the more it pushes back. These softer, thinner membranes versus these thicker leather, or even the exercise ball under here, you're going to get more push. But you should be feeling both sides of the main bolt of the leg, the hip muscle, really engaged here. That's what's going to pull pressure and stabilize from above. The last piece would be, okay, push into this ball. Good, good. Pull into this ball. See why I wrap those bands up for later? Because we're going to be doing it standing. I'm just going to roll it, boom. So now this has replaced my hand, so I can focus on the joint that's further away from the body. Does this make sense? Simple little approach to if you're doing manual work. It's not about, I'm not digging in with my thumbs, I don't have you hooked up on a machine yet. That's some higher level work that's more like, if you want a massage, go to a massage therapist. That's not what I'm teaching here. I'm teaching you joint protection so you can target a specific joint. Same thing if you got somebody with an old ankle sprain. I might take the big toe and the pinky toe and just spread them. This creates space at the ankle. And then I'll have you pump it up and down. Good. And I'm just, at most, what? How many pounds of pressure am I giving you? 1 pound, 2 pound. And what did I just feel in that foot? I felt some things popping open, right? We're opening up. So now I've got my fingers on the inside of the big toe there to spread that gap. Because if I can get your foot to web more, you're going to have more surface area, and that's going to protect that knee. Does that make sense? This is why I have a complaint with all the shoes just with the narrow toe box. Because it's going to drive things tight. And then that decreases the amount of space, which is going to compress the ankle, which if you have a knee, I definitely don't want this packed, right? If I push here in the heel, up and in, I'm just smashing all those bones together. There's no muscle there. I'm just driving this into the knee and the knee into the hip. So this is the pattern of injury. If I were to hit this real hard, you would cuss me.
But that's how people hit the ground when they're running with their heels.
Running and stepping off boxes. Are you doing any plyometric work? Hopping off of a box, jumping off of a box? We want to get you back to that point. We want to make sure that you can push into this pad of this foot. Push, 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 push. And I'm giving. I'm not just resisting in one spot. If I did want to resist in one spot, go ahead and push. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Then I'm going to give. Okay, and then we're going to reset. Go ahead and push, and then I'm going to pick a spot that's just a little lower because I want this joint just a little more open. And I want the motor memory of the brain to be there. Because at the end of the day, this is what full right hip extension if it was behind you. So if you were on your tummy, it would be the same approach. I would just have my hand under and I'd be pulling you up. Okay? Now, let's say I'm not here. I do this in a session and I give you some homework. Your homework is to take this heel and the base of this, and I want you to roll it up and back. Up and back. Up and back. And then more pressure and more range, which is when I'm going to put this one up here and use both. And that's going to give more of a full step. And later we'll do these, and then that becomes bound, like a wide step. That's to prepare for more sport-specific movements. Cool.
You are just working with the injured side.
I'm just working with the injured side right now early on. I could say for this one, if it's hard for them to do one side, what do? We regress to bilateral work. For you, go ahead and start this, forward and back. It's a good ab workout. It's a good hip workout. The harder you push the heels into the ball, the more it pushes back. What's that?
What would be the format for the sets and repetitions?
In a rehab sense, I want to work him to fatigue. Okay, and if I wanted to know how many sets and reps, I would need to have a tracking sheet. Henry, how long do we do it? What's the volume? It's not about reps sometimes, it's about how many times do we work to fatigue. A lot of times when I work somebody in a rehab environment, their face tells me if they're done.
Okay.
You know, like I don't get overly enamored with reps and sets. I want a stimulus.
Okay.
And I want to increase that volume of stimulus. And once that increase of volume of that stimulus has been achieved, and maybe it's like, all right, we're above this, or he's been coming in and doing this before his session, now it tells me he's ready to do more. If I work in a hospital and I walk in and you're still in the hospital gown, you're not ready to go home. If I walk in and you've gotten dressed, and you're sitting on the edge of the bed, you say, Cody, I've already done some of my work today. Can we talk to this? How do I get out of here? You know what I mean? Like, sweet, let's go down that route. Then I don't send them home in their hospital gown. Everybody's seen the movie or the video of like the person outside with their cheeks open. They're still in the gown. They don't need to be out there. They've escaped. Somebody has kicked them out possibly, or they've decided, hey, I don't need this anymore. Same concept, kind of a silly visual, but the same concept here. I want him to have a stimulus. I want him to understand and be able to repeat. Remember, place and hold. Can he do it? Can he do it in other ways? Can we widen? That closes the hip, okay? Can you drive this one down and pick this one up? Yeah, now do an ankle circle. Good. Up, down, knee in, knee out.
Can you explain to us when you do nerve flossing in the way you're doing it there, right? Can you explain to us what?
From a standpoint of that ankle, the tendons on the base of the foot and the top of the foot. Sorry, you're tickling. Sensory zone, right? If I'm in a sock all the time, if I'm in a shoe all the time, I don't get that nervous input. And those nerves basically all branch from one nerve turns into many nerves. And that starts at the brain stem into the spinal cord, and it goes all directions all the way down through. So those nerves run through a slot. that's very tiny in some places, right? Has anybody ever got burning pain in their elbow after a heavy lift? You probably got that nerve compressed between muscle and bone or two muscles. So in order to get that nerve out of that zone, you either need to think about, have I created too much bulk in an area that I don't need it there? And in your situation, it's not about bulk, it's about making sure that that nerve is in its slot. So that is what's called nerve flossing. Nerve flossing can be done, you'll feel it, right? Oh, the most common one is in the shoulder, because there's three main nerves in the arm. Does anybody know them? It really doesn't matter, but radial, median, and ulnar, right? And then if you have symptoms in your elbow, I might ask you, is it here, is it there? And that tells me which one it's gonna be. But at the end of the day, I'm traveling them all back up to where they're closest. And for the ankle and the knee, where are they closest? Right here in the hip socket. So the supine work, gravity's helping. The prone work, you're working against gravity, and then when you add motion in either of those positions, you're flossing the nerve. The goal is not to stretch the nerve like you think traditionally with a muscle. It is to get it to move in and out. You're teaching it, hey, it's okay to move around in here. Your pain is not necessarily nerve related, but if you had somebody with a foot, maybe they say, hey, my big toe feels fuzzy, or I can't feel my big toe sometimes. That tells me that something up in here is likely compressed. It could also be behind the knee. Okay, so it's the same protocol here for both of those situations. We just want to get really good at moving this in little diagonals. I want to get good at pushing this down and moving this in the open chain. The open chain work is one of the best things for this knee right now. Especially the stage we're in, right? We're a week out from imaging, so we get to find out more about it. I'm not going to push you through anything that's highly resistant. I don't need to be full body weight, just little isometrics. I'm trying to induce that wobble, right?
Yesterday we were talking about 90 degrees and more than 90 degrees.
90 degrees, after 90 degrees, who did I say this to this morning? We talked about after 90 degrees at any joint, you're no longer strong. Up above that 90 degrees is strength. So this would be 90. So how would you make this more than 90 to keep pressure in the ball?
Scoot a little bit more. Up.
Nope. If I want to keep pressure in the ball, and I want to increase this range in this knee outside of 90 degrees, what would I do?
You're gonna roll up back, right?
If I roll it back, that decreases the angle. So there's 90. I want to go away from 90.
So push.
I want to open that joint. Okay, so think about just sitting in that chair, extend your foot all the way out. Hey, kind of hard, right? Now stand up and step that foot forward. Yep, stand all the way up. Nice, good. More than 90 degrees that joint, right? More athletic. Now, if you lock it out at 180 degrees, why is that a problem? So you don't want to be locking this joint out at 90.
What if
The
it
meniscus gets torn when this gets torqued, especially in this position. So you want to be in this position as much as possible. And these little bitty micro movements to build strength.
Yeah, you don't want to lock your knees out.
Exactly.
Not ever.
Exactly.
Never be.
So no full lockout, and anything past 90 degrees, we don't need to go there.
No,
Because the
full-
focus for something like the knee
This
is
what
not
you
to
wanna
increase
do.
range of motion. If pain is from a decrease in range of motion, in my opinion, that is misdiagnosed, because that range of motion will open up when you have control. The brain and the body will go, hey, I can't move the shoulder past that point, right? Because it's inflamed, because you've got something that's happened inside. And if I were to pull that, then I'm going to stretch tissues that I don't need to be stretching. I just need more blood flow to the area. And this is a program that just increases blood flow. So you could take bigger breaths and increase blood flow. You could have a hot pack on and increase blood flow. You don't want to have compression. However, there is a technique that they compress here. They basically tie a band and they cut off circulation. The idea behind that is when I'm done, it sends more blood flow there. I don't mess around with that because I feel like I can spend more time doing this than I can tying that together, and you're going to get the same amount of benefit in my mind that is more important. In a higher performance environment, I think there's some RPE, right, like blood flow restriction. There's modalities, right? There's endless modalities you can add to this. there's rubber bands that I could attach to every toe, but I'd have to invent them, and then I could spread them in a mathematical fashion to the sky and hit my computer, and I could change how much resistance on each toe. That would be brilliant. I don't know how to create it, but that is how my mind thinks. Like I want open. I want a little traction. I want you to pull away from my hand. Good. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. Now we're at 90. So from there, what do we do to increase this range? Boom. And you should feel the back of that hamstring. It struggles to get there. You feel that wobble? So then ankle circle. Which is why I teach the ball here with the hand here to keep this hip engaged. So the ankle circle actually induces that response. Does that make sense? Does that answer nerve flossing too? Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I'm gonna get rid of the ball. Put your roll over on your tummy.
Your others are speaking.
Prone work. Prone work is, you're in front of the camera, man.
Oh, sorry.
Smile, you have to smile, say hi. Hi.
I forgot you.
Say, I'm Jan, I know a lot of this. I'm just improving my confidence and how just putting your hands on somebody is, it can be stressful, right? Like, oh, if you're not confident working with your hands, I'm happy to get on the table while I'm here and you can force around and I'll give you immediate feedback, which is why I'm going to constantly ask, hey Henry, is this okay?
It's okay.
Right? Are you having any pain? If it's a yes, I need to like pause. I don't need to just drop, right? Because if I drop, then there's more movement. I go, hey, okay, where's your pain? Let's say it's in the right hip. And I'm going to take what? My hand here, and I'm going to pull a little bit here, and then I'm going to open this joint and close this joint. Not only are we protecting our clients' joints, who else are we protecting? It's important to understand that your back in funny positions, which is why if you wanted a taller box, if it was a heavier person, you can modify those things. And at the very least, you should be decompress yourself before you get into some of these awkward positions. You can feel it in the hip socket, eh?
Yeah.
Now, look at the foot. Okay, I want you to put the hand, yes. Notice you have a little more control. So from there, Gabby, this underhand, I want you to pull as you take the foot away. And that should rotate the hip in the socket. And no torque at the knee, correct? No. So if you were to not have your hand on the bottom there, you see where it would torque the knee. Now, if I wanted to add resistance,
She doesn't have the hand in the bottom.
if she doesn't have a hand bottom there and control of the femur, and she's just working the leg, you're gonna get movement here. Versus if you're holding and protecting, then you know that you've got control. You've got a ton of great little tools here. I'm gonna show you this one. This is the trick, same for our bottom, right? We're gonna put it there. Push that knee into that mat. Good. Where do you feel that? Yes. So now we know what's engaged. Hip and socket. Now, bring this foot up. Good. All the way up. Now on the way down, as slow as possible.
Keeping the pressure down.
Keeping the pressure, pushing into that pad with the knee, and then working the kneecap. Henry, I'm on the right side, right?
Oh, the other one.
Left side. So, left side to that side. Okay. If you ever want to like build your, what's the word? Like somebody that trusts you. I want to build Henry's confidence in me. I'm not going to go after his affected side right out of the gate if it's the first time I'm with him. Obviously, I've built a little rapport with you, and I think you know I'm not here to make things worse. Like I want to show, and the camera's going. If you ever want to film your sessions, it's not just for content. Sometimes if there's an issue, you can then go back and look and say, hey, remember when you felt that pain? Well, I was cueing you, and I wasn't able to keep you out of that, but now you can see where you went, and we don't want to go there because people will do funny things. You'll cue it perfectly for this person, and then I'll have you, and you'll be like, oh, is it like this? And I'm like, So you have to stop and think. Open. Push this heel into my hand. Yep. And then I've got fingers on both sides of the Achilles. See that little Achilles spot? And I'm going to pull it down, and you just keep pulling, Henry. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. Pull hard. Try to close. Pull the heel up into my hand. Yeah, pull, 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 pull. So come feel this. I'm hardly pulling, but I have both sides of that Achilles, okay? So if I want this, I'm gonna say, hey, push up into my hand here. See this button? Boom. And then I'm gonna 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna let it go. And I want you to relax completely. So if you ever want to isolate a tissue, if you're ever like, man, that thing, like you see it maybe in the wall sit, and you see that it kind of turns on, you see it in the quad a lot. Trace it with your thumbs, push at the base, not on the bone, right at the base of the tissue, and say push into my hand, and they'll find that muscle, which is what we're doing with that ball or that foam roller, okay? So the more you can be more comfortable with tracing, right? And it's a very little pressure. The focus here is, I'm gonna trace the Achilles. Okay, I've got 2 ankle bones. We all know about those from the year that we've spent obsessing, right? But now we know, okay, there's a slot right there. Pull into Gabby's hand, that's your left foot. Okay. Henry, what does that feel like?
It's good.
You feel how it decompresses the knee joint because we're working with an ankle, but we're in a position where you just can't move. Okay, so rockers, right? Child rockers. For him, we have a knee that we don't want range of motion. We don't want to increase. We don't need to pack it into a deep squat yet. So before I ever set you into your rocker, because we know that there's an ailment, we know that there's a knee issue already, we're not going to find out. I'm going to go ahead and put this here, okay? And then I'm going to have this removed, okay? Henry, act like an 82-year-old man for me, all right, when we do this. Act very weak. I'm going to be, feels awkward. You might have to straddle, okay? But I'm going to do it from the side. I'm going to pick up your hips. I want you to take your hips back to your heels. Go ahead and push through your hands. This prevents back pain. And then if he has to go forward, I'm controlling his weight. Once he's there, you're good? Okay, now I've got scaffolding behind him. I'm going to add scaffolding in front of him. Scaffolding is just help. It's a crutch. But it's a crutch, it's a smart crutch, right? Because now, what are we going to do? Who wants to guess what we're about to do?
Rollouts.
Rollouts. Boom. Just rolling it out, moving it, rolling it back.
Your
Trying
palms,
to
your palms are
open this
facing
all
up.
up,
Palms
engage
facing
it,
up.
turn it on.
Palms facing up.
Palms facing up, opens the what?
The chest.
Opens the shoulders.
Hold it back up the top.
Okay, now when you push that ball out, I want you to push that ball a little further, all the way to the end of the box. And bring your hips forward. So I'm gonna have your hands in it now. Okay, roll it all the way out, all the way out, all the way out, all the way out, all the way out. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Roll it. Go ahead. So your hips are forward. We're gonna open up that range, but keep that chest tall. Okay, keep that chest tall. Chest tall. Good. Okay. Now we've got more body weight on the what? Knees. Knees, right? So once they get good at the big long one, we're trying to get you up. Because the goal here is, can you sit into that ball without pain? Awesome. Then we've achieved what we want to achieve in this position. Is that knee in a strong position? No, why? It's less than 90 degrees. So what are we targeting in this exercise? Hips, glutes, adductors, abductors, right? I want adduction. I might give you what? A foam block, something to pull into. I want abduction or opening of the hips. What am I going to do? I'm actually going to curl the toes first, okay? Why? Curl the toes under. I want to load. If I want to load the outside of the hip, I want to load the outside of the what? Good. So we're gonna keep that crutch, okay? For people that may struggle with upper body balance and you have them on an elevated surface, maybe we'll replace that ball with another brick. For Henry, we're going to keep it alone. Our Lady this morning, I'm going to be doing rubber ball out until she masters a little bitty hinge with a block. So bring the hips forward. Good. Tuck this toe. Good. Open the knees wide. Open this one. Good. Is that okay? Now sit back. I want you to load this foot. Squat back into it and then go forward. Keep those toes tucked. So your rubber ball roll out, your toe stays tucked. Good. What does that do? It engages the bottom of the foot, which it gives us, yeah, you feel it more in the hip. Where's your grimace from? It's in the foot. That's a good sign. It's not in the knee, not on the side of the injury. Okay, so what's our like? What did we find? We found that this one for you is something that you want to really do a lot of because you induce a fatigue response. Yeah?
Eso.
And why is the ball back there?
So I don't get the
Yes. Because as you get tired, you're going to be more willing to go further back there, and that's not the goal here. The goal is going forward.
You remember when you were facing down and then you pulled your hips up to reach the ball? Think of that. No solo llegar atrás. Think of pulling yourself to the ball. Pulling your hip, yeah.
Intentionally with your hip.
So if this one were not to be available to us, I'm going to untuck the toes. Okay? Untuck them. Good. And go ahead and work the hands down. Put my elbows here. The hands here. Okay? All the way out. Come all the way out. So almost all the way to prone. Yes, yes, yes. Why? Because we want less range than that. We want to open up the angle behind the knee. Now, keep coming. This is what it looks like, right? It's a knee lift rock. See how much space is behind my knee? Crawl quite a bit. Crawl your hips forward. Very good. Now keep the feet back. Push the tops of the feet in. Wonderful. And lift the knees. Hold. How slow can you bring those down?
Pero trata de try and lead with your hip.
Good, and go back up. As soon as you feel that cushion there, I'm going to give him something to feel to come back up. On that affected side.
I feel he's using more of his thoracic spine than his hips to go back. Is it okay?
So target here is here. From the top of the ankle to the base of the knee. Slow. Like he's only got 4 pivot points. 2 of them are back here. See if you can hold it in like on the way down. Triple slow. Oh, good. Up. Hold. Now take it slowly down. Up. Good. Slowly down. Up. 2 more. Slowly down. Up. Down. All the way. Rest on your tummy. Good. Okay, how did that feel in the front of the knee? Feel a pull in the front of the knee in a good way? Feel awkward? That's a position that you want to get better at. Because that awkwardness is instability. It's a lack of control. And that's what slides the knee around. So that there's a muscle here that travels on the out. So the shin bone, remember the shin bone we traced with? It's the outside of the shin bone that is induced with that. People with shin splints, great start. Right? Tuck the toes, untuck the toes, tuck the toes, untuck the toes, tuck the toes, untuck the toes. Why? I'm trying to build resilience in the ankle. So we've done both sides of the calf and the anterior portion of the leg. Cool. So everything's alive, everything's awake, everything's been engaged. I'm going to have you come up with your right foot forward. But in order to do that safely, Time out. I'm going to turn that camera off, and I'm going to start you from this point because this is kind of a longer lesson when it comes to transitioning from prone. And I don't want it to get lost because this is already going to be, what, a 45-minute